We are live. Day 2 of the 12 days of Christmas. Had a little technical difficulties on day 2. Day 1 went nice and smooth, but yeah, we're good to go. Those of you that are hopping on, say hello in the comments for me, please. So I know that you are here with me. All right. Hello, Miss Ross. Okay, we're rocking and rolling. Happy Friday, guys, or happy Fry-yay, as they say. Day 2, one of my favorite topics, lead response mastery. As you guys know, these are short, these are sweet. We're getting right to the point. So let me go ahead and share my screen and let's dive in. Curious, those of you that are watching, how many of you have let's call it a list of leads in either your CRM or in some cases, I've seen school owners just use straight up old school spreadsheets like Excel or Google spreadsheets. How many of you have a list of leads that you can be following up with? Let me know. Yes, Miss Jilly. When I went live, it initially went live on my personal profile as opposed to the group. So I clicked the wrong button, but we are here. You guys are here. Miss Ross says, yes, it's a long list. Good. Well, I think in most cases that most school owners actually don't have a lead problem. They have a lead follow-up problem. And it's typically because they're just not setting their team up for success in terms of when this should be happening, how often it should be happening, how are we tracking that it's happening. And in today's session, I'm really excited to kind of walk you through what is the absolute best way for you to be able to turn your leads into booked appointments that actually show up. Mrs. Chapman is old school. She has an Excel list. You know, I say this often. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs that I know operate a big portion of their business on Google spreadsheets because simple scales, right? But in today's session, we are going to dive into the best processes for you to do this. So yesterday, day 1 was the AI playbook wizardry. And today is all about response follow-up. I'm going to be teaching you the strategies to really just help you book more appointments. Mr. Miller, nice to see you on here. Our agenda. We got to look at what the data is showing, right? I always say math is the path. We want to be making data-driven decisions. So I'm going to show you what the actual data shows with a case study that was done at the Harvard Business Review, but also a case study that we did internally. And I think some of the stats are going to be pretty shocking to you in terms of like when is the actual best time to do lead. Talk about the number 1 strategy you need to implement, the best way to track your data, what I like to call the appointment setting trifecta. I'm going to share with you the ultimate phone script. We're going to talk about game tape. The schools that do this are the schools that do not have problem booking appointments, and then leveraging power dialers. And of course, I do have a free giveaway for you. This is a brand new giveaway. Never given this away before. Really excited to share that with you. Okay. So like I said, math is the path. You might have seen this before. I've shared this in previous trainings, but this was published in the Harvard Business Review. And sometimes, you know, it's more about being reminded than being taught something new. But they did this huge case study. They examined 3 years of data across many companies, and it was specific to web-generated leads. Okay, so we're really talking about, you know, like online generated leads. They looked at over 15,000 leads, 100,000 call attempts, and they just wanted to figure out, like, how do you maximize results and really minimize the effort? And in this study, what they found was the best days to make contact was on Wednesday and Thursday. And our internal study that we did at GrowPro actually shows differently. So I think that's an important point to make. But their study said Wednesdays and Thursdays were the best days to make contact. And what they found was earlier in the morning and later on in the day were the best times to call. And what's interesting is that a lot of schools, typically don't open up until 12 or 1 or 2 when your program director is coming in. And statistics show those times, like at around that 1 or 2 when your program director comes in is actually like the worst times to be making phone calls. And our data in our study showed that as well. 10-time decrease after the first 5 minutes. This is why we're constantly saying you got to follow up within 5 minutes. You have to have that to lead. And in many cases, this is where a lot of school owners are just completely dropping the ball. And they said a minimum of 6 calls. If you make 6 call attempts, that will give you a 90% chance of making contact. And I'm curious, those of you that are doing lead follow-up, yes or no, are you calling that lead at least 6 times? Yes or no, 6. Not 1, not 2, not 3. I think for most schools, they probably can hit 1, 2, or 3, but 6 phone calls for a lead. And, anytime we're talking about appointment setting, when you look at other industries in terms of call, statistics, it's really about the volume. Okay. And this is another area that a lot of schools drop the ball. Okay. Thank you to those of you that are letting me know, no, we're not calling 6 times. So hopefully this data, maybe helps you add a couple of more additional reps. Okay. The other interesting thing that they found is that most businesses, their first response was email. It wasn't even a phone call. And in my opinion, you should be doing the phone call, you should be doing the email, and you should be doing the text message, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And again, that optimal phone response time was 5 minutes. And in this study, the average phone response time was 44 hours. Look, if somebody's finding you online because they saw your ad or they Googled you, if they go back on Facebook, they're going to now start seeing your competitors' ads because they are now in this audience of people that are interested in martial arts. And that's why speed to lead is so important, because they're not just checking you out. Now they're also going to be checking out your competitors. And we want to make sure we get that first at bat. Okay. In this study, 50% of the leads weren't even responded to at all. Please make sure you're not doing this. And this is why I really believe for most schools, it's not a lead quantity issue. It's just a follow-up issue. We have to be persistent, right? And it's not just with the phone calls. It's also with the emails, and it's also with the text messages. So we have had our Concierge Agent Program for a little over 2 years now. I know Miss Jilly is one of our clients. Mrs. Chapman is one of our clients. Marina and Lydia work on their accounts. And we did an internal study to see what were the days that the most appointments were booked. And in our industry, in the martial arts industry. And what we found is that actually Monday and Tuesday were the highest booking days. And then it started to taper off as the rest of the week went on. The other really interesting thing, and as an aside, we only follow up between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So that's the only data I have on this. I don't have data in terms of booking appointments post 5 p.m. But for most of you post 5 p.m., that's the time that the academy is popping, right? That's game time. And if you have a program director that is now greeting the new families coming in for introductory lessons, they're building rapport with the families that are in there as they're working the lobby, they're selling merchandise, they're doing renewal appointments, they're doing upgrade appointments. It can be difficult to really pull that into their time block when it's, the hottest time in our school, which is after, typically 4 p.m. But the statistics show for us, the highest booking times that we have found are right in the morning at 9 a.m. 17% of the appointments are being booked at 9 a.m. and then also 12 p.m. You know, it kind of makes sense. Like 9 a.m., maybe it's like right after the kids have been dropped off, parents are able to answer the phone. And then 12 p.m. is their lunchtime. But what was interesting is if you look 1 p.m., only 3%. And for a lot of you, that's when your program directors are coming in. And I'm assuming one of the first things that they're doing after they open the academy is they are reaching out to the leads that came in the night before. So I think this is very interesting that the majority of the bookings that are occurring are actually in the morning and not later on in the afternoon when a lot of martial arts schools time block this. And we'll talk about how you can kind of get around that. Okay. So this is the missing key for the majority of schools. We in Gracie Pack and also at GrowPro, all of our team members work off of time blocks. And I think some people will look at a time block and think it's restrictive. It's actually not restrictive. It actually provides you a lot of freedom and it ensures things that, you know, things that need to get done actually get done. But what I would look at is in your calendar. If you're the one doing the follow-up, it's your calendar. If you are delegating that to somebody that works the front desk or a program director, then this needs to be on their calendar. But every single day, there should be warm lead follow-up. So you have your hot lead follow-up. That's the lead that, you know, comes in immediately. We need to call within 5 minutes. The warm leads are the leads that have come in within the few previous days, even a week out. And then you have cold leads, right? And these are the leads that came in a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. You need to make sure every single day on the calendar, there is hot lead and warm lead follow-up. Those should be done together. And you want to make sure that you're prioritizing that low-hanging fruit. We always start with the hot leads and the warm leads. And then on a weekly basis minimum, if you can do it multiple times a week, even better, we want a time block following up with the cold leads. And typically, it's a numbers game, right? If you have 100 cold leads, meaning leads that opted in months and months and months ago, 100 calls, you'll probably get 10 pickups. Out of those 10 pickups, a couple of them are going to instantly hang up on the phone. So you might generate like 5 actual conversations. And from that, you should be able to book 1 to 2 appointments. And for those of you that have been advertising online for a while, or your school has been around for a while, you probably have thousands and thousands of leads in your database. So this has to be time blocked daily for hot lead and warm lead follow-up, weekly at a minimum for cold lead follow-up. And then you also want to make sure that you're changing the times that you're doing this. So, you know, if your program director gets in at 12, we don't want every single day at 12 to be the only time that they are following up. We need to have earlier time slots as well as later time slots. So if you do not currently have this time blocked, or maybe you do have it time blocked, but you're not doing it daily, or you don't have the cold outreach synced into the calendar, this will be one of the game changers, okay? What we want you to aim for in terms of lead to appointment ratio with online leads, okay? So these are your digital leads. The numbers would be higher referral leads, right? The numbers would be higher if these were leads that were generated face-to-face, maybe through like an offsite booth. But we want to aim to convert about 50 to 60% of the leads that come in online to appointments. So you get 100 leads, 50 to 60 of those is what you should be aiming for in order to get them on the calendar. And you got to have the trifecta. You absolutely should be leveraging text messages. You know, oftentimes people are opting in the middle of the night when it's not an appropriate time to call. And one of the things that the phone companies are really starting to crack down on is bots. And you have to make sure that an initial compliance text goes out that basically gives them the ability to opt out if they want to. So if you don't have that initial compliance text, please make sure you do. And then we want to have automations that continue to follow up, not just with text, but also with email. In terms of the phone call follow-up, the recommendation is on day 1, if you can call twice, that is the ideal scenario, okay? Some people really push double dialing, right? So if you call and then they don't pick up, you call again. I know there's a group of people that feel like that's a little slimy, and maybe that's you. If that's the case, I want you leading with your own values in your company, but double dialing can help increase them picking up the phone. So we want to call on day one, we want to call on day two, we want to call on day three. Then you can start drip releasing the rest of the calls. What we do for the concierge is on day 5, on day 7, and on day 14. And throughout this 14-day phone call follow-up, there are email automations and text message automations that are going out. So this is what I want you to be aiming for. That will give you those 6 phone calls that the study recommends that you have at least that amount of phone call outreach. And then when you add in the email and the text message outreach, that can help you get to those 12 touch points that's recommended in that Harvard Business study. So one of the biggest mistakes school owners make is that we fall in love with technology because it helps us to buy back our time. And technology is great, and it absolutely can do that. But so many schools are just not having that human touch point. And if they're opting into your competitor's website and yours, I don't want you to only have a robot reaching out. So we absolutely should be leveraging those automations, the booking automations, the confirmation sequences, but we need to have that human touch point as well. And one of the things that a lot of schools are lacking is having a really solid framework for the human touch point of the phone call. And you need to have a framework, a phone script that you are training your team on. And it's not just you train them on it once. There needs to be continuous training. And one of my other favorite human touch points to really help with your show ratio, if you're kind of below that 70% show ratio for a free offer, whether you do, a free introductory lesson or one-on-one, is a day of video sent by the instructor or the program director, selfie style with the phone. And it's just a nice little extra touch point to let them know, like, hey, there's another human on the other side of this appointment that is very excited to see you. And that isn't going to be able to be automated. So it, is probably going to take you 10 to 20 seconds to film that and send it out. But if you are struggling with appointment shows, that is my recommendation. So I want to dive into this appointment booking inbound script. Okay. And this is what we train our team on. This is what we used at Gracie Pack as well. And we have to remember that there's really 4 objectives of an information call. The first objective is we want to obtain the pertinent information, right? We want to make sure that we're getting the name, we're getting the phone number, we're getting the email, and it's accurate information. The second objective is we need to connect them with their why. We have to discover what is the motivation for them calling. And then we need to guide the conversation and reflect their why back to them. So reiterating to them what their goals are and align them with how your program at your school can help them benefit. And then finally, we want to book the appointment, right? And then ideally, we want to secure a day and time for their visit that is as close to the day and time as we are talking to them, okay? Some proper etiquette to consider, and I know this might seem silly, but it really does work. Smile when you answer the phone. Put a big smile on your face. Like, people can feel that energy through the phone. Want to make sure we understand that each person's wants and needs are a little different, and we have to tailor the conversation to them. We want to avoid sounding too scripted and being genuine and natural, but that script is there to help us or our team get back on track, okay? Try to answer the phone call by the second ring if possible. Use proper grammar and professionalism. I hate that has to be said, but it does. And really work to develop rapport and make the caller feel valued. What's really important to train your team on is that if they're unsure about an answer, that you don't want them to kind of BS their way through it, and just be transparent that they would be happy to get the answer for them and then call them back. So I'm going to quickly go through this And this may or may not be your free giveaway that I'm going to give you guys access to, so you can dive in a little bit deeper. But this greeting, so often schools, when they answer the phone, hey, this is Chris from Gracie Pack. How can I help you? Is typically the first question that I hear when school owners are answering the phone or their team is answering the phone. And I'm really against this because your prospects probably don't know really great questions to ask. And the only question that they're going to ask when you say, how can I help you, is how much is it? And what it does is it really puts the control of the conversation in their hands. And I want the person on your team to really be able to guide the conversation. So what we say at Gracie Pack, it's a great day at Gracie Pack. May I ask who I am speaking with, right? It's not an open-ended question. It's a closed-ended question. There's only one answer to that, and that's their name, right? That's it. May I ask who I'm speaking with? And they're going to say their name. If they don't say their full name, then you're going to ask them for their last name. And then we have the name, which is obtaining the pertinent information. And then we want to ask, because we have programs for adults and for kids more than likely, are they calling for themselves or are they calling for a child? And this is going to allow us to understand who the program is for. And if it is an inquiry on a child, we want to ask them what the child's age is, because you may or may not have a program that would be appropriate for them. Maybe the child is 3 and you don't start children until 4 or 5, okay? The next thing we're going to do is confirm the location. Are you interested in R? And then whatever the location is. This was especially important for me because we are a Gracie affiliate school and there are Gracie schools everywhere. And also, if you have competitors nearby, you want to make sure they know which location that they are going to be going to. So just ensure that they're calling the correct school. As I'm going through this, if you guys have questions or comments, let me know. If you have any aha moments, let me know as well. Then we want to ask how they heard about us. And this is just so important to be able to track marketing effectiveness. And as you can see, these questions, I'm the one guiding the conversation. And I've been able to do that because I kicked it off with this one. May I ask who I am speaking with, right? That is a closed-ended question. It's not an open-ended question. Then we got to figure out what are their desired benefits, because we want to frame the call in a way to be able to help them solve the specific challenge that they are having. So what are the benefits you hope you, or if it's a child, your child will gain by training with us? And as you're doing this, you got to make sure that you're taking notes and we're writing this down, or we're in the CRM and we're taking notes on the contact, okay? From there, we'll go through current efforts. Is there anything you're doing to achieve these benefits? And then we position our school to why we're the best fit. Once we do that, we can start to present the offer, and then we can go ahead and offer specific time slots. This is so important. We're not just going to ask, well, when do you want to come in? We're going to let them know we have availability tonight at 6 or tomorrow at 7. And ideally, we want to book them same day, next day is kind of like because the further out you go, the higher chance of them not showing up. You really don't want to be booking appointments 2-3 weeks out, okay? Once you schedule the appointment, you can gather information. If you have a referral program in place and you like leaning in and asking for referrals, you can see if they have any other friends that are interested. And then we want to future pace them. We want to pre-frame the sign up. Like when you visit, if you like what you see, we can get you signed up. Fair enough. Okay. From there, you're going to provide next steps. So let them know, what do they need to wear. I would suggest telling them to bring their ID, because their ID is going to be in their wallet and they're going to need their wallet in order to sign up. We also have some general notes in here for you to take a peek at, but I wanted to make this just super simple for you in order to help maybe improve some of the processes that you are currently doing. I had a school owner reach out to me, and he was listening to game tape, which we're going to talk about in a second. And he said listening to the phone calls literally like made his blood boil because nobody was following the script. And if, one, you don't have a script, there's no script to follow. But 2, if you do have a script and you're not role playing with them, the likelihood of them following that script isn't very high. Okay. So that is the appointment booking inbound script. one of the ninja hacks that I really think help take schools from being okay at booking appointments to being great is game tape, right? When a football team has a game, after the game, the next day, what do? They watch the game and they figure out what are the things we did well and what are the areas of improvement. You should be recording your calls, but you have to stay compliant. And it's really based on your state. In the state of Florida, if we're recording, we do have to let them know. So, hey, this is Chris from Gracie Pack recording, calling on a recorded line. Listen to the calls together, but instead of you telling them what was wrong on the call, you're going to ask them, where do they think they have room for improvement? And most people are going to be harder on themselves than you probably would be. And this is going to make these, training sessions something that people aren't not excited about because they just think that they're going to get yelled at the entire time. So listen to the call together and then ask them, where do you think you have some room for improvements? And guys, the major companies, the call centers out there that are doing these calls over and over and over again, one of the big parts of the manager's job role is to audit and listen to calls and then provide feedback and training on how to make those calls even better. Okay. So this is a ninja hack. Another ninja hack is using a power dialer. And if you're a GrowPro client, we can have these built. We use these for our concierge agents inside of High Level. And what it does is it just really automates the process of calling leads and allows you to manage high call volumes. When you're tracking a lead, we want to know, okay, are we on day 1? Are we on day 2? Are we on day 3? Are we on day 5? And a power dialer, let's say it's day 2 and I call the person, they don't pick up. It automatically puts that contact in the day 3 follow-up. So now the next day, I go to day 3 follow-up, and all of the leads that are in day 3, I'll be able to follow up with them. And what's also really cool is that all of the calls that you need to make, whether it's a day 2 call, a day 5 call, a day 10 call, they're in call queues. So you just hit one button, and it starts calling one person right after the next, and you can pause the call queue if you need to take a break as well. So this is a definite ninja hack. Your action step, look at your calendar and please time block your daily warm, hot lead follow-up and your weekly cold lead follow-up. And my gift to you is this appointment booking inbound script. I will drop the link. It's a Google document in the comments for you to grab as soon as this video is done. So that's what we have, guys. Most of you do not have a lead issue. You have a lead follow-up issue. And hopefully today's training gave you some insights on some areas that you can tweak. If you're not doing game tape reviews, please consider implementing that. If you're not doing role-playing training, that's where we really need to start. But this is a skill that you and your team can develop, and I believe it's one of the most important skills if you want to enroll more students, okay? I will be back Monday, 11 a.m. Hopefully there won't be any tech issues. If you're watching the replay, let me know. Drop it in the comments. If you have questions, let me know. Drop it in the comments. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a phenomenal weekend. See you guys.